ESPN from Lexington, thoroughbred country, where speed and endurance are coveted qualities. A couple of teams with those qualities on the court today doing battle, LSU and Kentucky 2.0. As we take a look at the standings in the conference to date, Kentucky at 10-3, LSU at 7-6, Florida headed towards another SEC regular season title, undefeated at 14-0. Hello, everybody. I'm Mark Jones, courtside, along with Jimmy Dykes. Thanks for coming aboard. Well, Jimmy, to a man, LSU says they're not afraid of the 24,000 in the Big Blue Nation here at Rupp Arena. They won the first meeting between these two teams. Kentucky, meanwhile, says they've been thinking about payback for about 4 weeks now since losing. But in the big picture, both games important because of Mark.
Absolutely. I think LSU comes in with a ton of confidence because in that first matchup, Jonesy, it was a beatdown LSU against Kentucky. Kentucky got out coached, they got out worked, they got outplayed in every facet of the basketball game. Think about this. Kentucky got 15% of their total shots taken in that game blocked, and Johnny O'Bryant had a lot to do with it. This is an LSU club right now that has the physical size to hang in this ball game on the road.
Well, the selection committee about to go to work in several weeks, Jimmy. With that in mind, a lot of jockeying in our one-on-one to get on your plane.
Well, and that selection committee is looking right now at my airplane, wanting to know what's going on and what they should do with certain teams. LSU is 9th on the standby list before this ball game tips off, so they're kind of distanced themselves, have not even cleared security yet. For Kentucky, they're being projected as a 5 seed. So what does that look like on the jet? Kentucky right now, I think they're going to hang in business class. They're not going to move up there to the first class as a 1 or 2 seed. They're going to be somewhere between a 3, 4, or a 5 seed when this thing's all said and done. LSU right now currently is 45th on the list of 36 at large. If they win this ball game today, talking to Joe Lunardi early, who there's no one better right now projecting the field, says with an LSU win, LSU could fly all the way up to maybe the first team out right now of the projected field. That's how big of an opportunity LSU has in Rupp Arena.
Got this game and a game against Florida to kick up a little dust in the conference as we take a look at today's starting lineups, brought to you by Michelin. Hickey, Martin, Coleman, Johnny O'Bryant, who had 29 and 9 last time against these Wildcats, and Jordan Mickey starting up front as well. Meanwhile, for the Wildcats, it's the Harrison twins, the backcourt, Andrew and Aaron. James Young, Julius Randle looking for his 4th consecutive double-double, and Dakari Johnson making his 7th consecutive start of the season. Meanwhile, it's the guys in purple with the tip. Hickey brings it up court, and LSU with the first possession.
Kentucky opens up in man-to-man. It'll be interesting to see how will they double-team, or will they double-team Johnny O'Bryant.
Hickey looked inside to O'Bryant. LSU coming off a very impressive win against Mississippi State. There's O'Bryant, single coverage. He knocked down a lot of mid-range shots in that first meeting. Misses his first one, but it's knocked out of bounds off a couple of Kentucky players.
Jonesy, we've already learned something. Kentucky's not going to double-team Johnny O'Bryant just on every touch. That time he caught the ball about the 12-foot mark, and it is a gamble to double-team someone that far from the rim.
Johnny Jones, the second-year head coach of the LSU Tigers, made it to the Final Four as both a player and a coach with LSU. Mickey steps out of the baseline. That one rattles in and out. Tigers with a couple of good looks. First time down the floor, though.
Kentucky, a good, strong push, and that's John Calipari's best teams over the years. Get the ball off the defensive backboard and run it before the defense gets set.
LSU, Jimmy, coming out in a zone, something that they played for the first time in part than the first meeting against Kentucky.
That's kind of when they started going to their zone with a bigger lineup with Coleman in the starting 5.
And Coleman misfiring. O'Bryant working underneath for the rebound, and the stick back good. Johnny O'Bryant.
LSU shot 55% from the 2-point part of the floor when they beat Kentucky in Baton Rouge. Again, they have the power and the size to hold up in this game.
And speaking of size, Willie Cauley-Stein getting ready to check into the ball game. That is going to be a very quick hook, expeditious hook by Calipari, as Dakari Johnson will have to take a quick seat, and he'll get the look and the talk from the coach.
Will not be a lot of patience today with John Calipari in key elements. What is that? Keeping Johnny O'Bryant off the glass.
Julius Randle missed the lefty hook shot out of bounds. It'll be LSU basketball. It was interesting in listening and watching Calipari this morning at shoot-around. He teaches as much psychology of basketball as he does X's and O's with this pretty young team.
Absolutely. And the rally cry for Kentucky this morning was about the word next. If you make a mistake, get on to the next play. And I thought it was very enlightening. John Calipari shared with us, and that goes for me as well. I've got to get off my guys and get them to the next play.
I tell you what, Johnny O'Brien is going to test that theory and that practice today with 2 quick buckets.
John Calipari even has an assistant coach assigned to him today. And if he wants to go back and stay on guys for a couple of minutes, coach next. Get to the next play.
4-0 LSU lead here, just underway in the first half. James Young firing away. That rims out, and it's 1 and done at the offensive end for Kentucky.
And with the exception of the Hickey kid, that's a big zone that LSU can throw at you.
O'Brien in rhythm, and he knocks it down. And a quick timeout called by Kentucky. Johnny O'Brien with some bad intentions here at Rupp Arena today. 6-0. We'll be back right after this. A very auspicious beginning for LSU. 6-0 lead, and they're riding their main horse, Johnny O'Brien, here in thoroughbred country.
Well, Johnny O'Brien can make 15-footers. Look at Willie Cauley-Stein. He's not a threat to blow by you off the bounce. He's a threat to pull up and knock down shots. Willie Cauley-Stein comes out with his hands down. Johnny O'Brien says, thank you very much.
6 points and a rebound to start. Harrison was looking for the lob. Here's his twin brother. He misses as well. And Johnny O'Brien with yet another rebound. Remember, he had 29 and 9 in the first meeting. Johnny Jones calls out the half-court set.
Kentucky only got to the free throw strike 13 times in that ball game. A season low because they settled for early, quick perimeter shots.
Jordan Mickey spinning inside. His jump hook no good. And rebounded by Harrison. That's Andrew. Harrison on the drive. Found a little resistance. Out of bounds. And it's Kentucky basketball. LSU, Jimmy, contesting a lot of shots here early.
That size, first of all, they contest the perimeter shots, but then you saw Harrison, who's a legit 6'6", get all the way to the rim. Tried to finish it with a one-handed shot. That will not work against the length of LSU.
LSU in that zone. Andrew Harrison with the floater this time, and he gets it to fall. That's their first field goal.
And a good decision by Harrison to pull up with a floater. Something that every guard has to have at that point guard position.
And his brother, a couple of highly touted recruits out of Texas. Ball tipped away. Good activity by Harrison out front. Young on the drive. Missed the Euro-step layup, but he drew the foul. As Joe DeRosa, one of our 3 officials today, along with Ron Groover and Tony Henderson, call the foul. That's the first on Coleman.
John Calipari doesn't want to go against this big zone set defense for 40 minutes. A point of urgency this morning in the shoot-around. When we get it off the defensive board or off a turnover, I want to flood the floor, and the wings have to run. You cannot beat good transition defense down the floor, Jonesy, off the bounce. You have to throw it ahead. Young is one of those guys you can throw ahead to.
Young, a pretty good foul shooter. Actually, he's slumped of late. He's down to 66% now, but he had a pretty good outing against LSU the first time around with 23 points.
Kentucky was so good from the free throw stripe at Ole Miss on Tuesday night. Had they not been, that thing could have gone down to the wire.
Harrison out to his twin brother. Yeah, they were 23 out of 26 against Ole Miss, Jimmy. Young on the drive. Tough shot and gets it to fall with the offhand.
All because of Kentucky screening the top of the zone, making one guard, then guard 2 on the reversal.
O'Brien spins baseline. Jordan Mickey couldn't get the handle. It's going to be LSU basketball. Timeout on the floor. So Kentucky took that early punch to the gut and recovered to make it a 1-point game.
Screen the top of the zone, get ball reversal. Drivers thrive off of ball reversal against man or zone. Well done by Kentucky.
I was waiting on my backstage passes from you, but it never came through for me.
You got to text me, man. I check in. I say, what's going on? She says, Luke Bryan's in concert. Upstairs, unload my bag. I sneak over here, get to hear a couple of Luke Bryan songs. That was huge. That's my kind of night. Crash my party. Rain is a good thing. Country girl, shake it for me. Are you down with any of this stuff I'm talking about right now?
All my country music allegiance lies with Toby Keith. Shocking y'all. Yeah, that's my CD.
Maybe the coolest fan in college basketball is Toby Keith because of his allegiance to the Sooners. Luke Bryan in Rupp Arena last night. That place was hot.
Yeah, he turned it loose. Meanwhile, Aaron Harrison at the free throw line. Pretty good foul shooter at 79% on the year. Ties the game at 6. This Kentucky team coming off a solid performance in Oxford, Mississippi, a win against Ole Miss. And this is a different Kentucky team, Jimmy, than the one that faced LSU the first time around. Coach Calipari and the staff talking about their maturity being a lot better and their growth since that time.
Yep. Now this is the first look by Kentucky out of their zone. I love Kentucky's zone defense. It is actually longer than what Syracuse can throw at you. That's how much length John Calipari has to work with.
They attack it in the middle. O'Brien's pass behind his teammate, Jarrell Martin. And folks, that's a second turnover. Don't miss one of the most anticipated rematches of the season tonight on ESPN. Jabari Parker and Duke looking to even the score against Syracuse. Then at 9, it's a Pac-12 showdown. Aaron Gordon of the Wildcats facing the Buffaloes. Saturday primetime, presented by DirecTV. Both games also live on Watch ESPN. A nice scoop shot inside by Aaron Harrison. And Kentucky with the lead.
How will Duke manage the physical and the mental fatigue that they're going to have to deal with tonight? Maybe no one better in college ball with those kind of situations than Coach K.
Well, because of that North Carolina game that was rescheduled, made it a busy week for them. Harrison! And a timeout, LSU.
How good was that? The speed and the explosiveness of both Harrison twins, but Andrew especially is comfortable in the open floor. Scores at a high percentage, gets fouled at a high rate. And this is where Kentucky, under John Calipari, has always been their best and a threat to go deep in mark. Get it off the defensive board and roll it up your backside, and now they got big guards and Young that can finish and get it out and roll. If you attack, Jonesy, those two small guards that Johnny Jones puts on the floor, you make them pay as defenders in transition.
Building coming alive for the first time this afternoon. The question begs now, how does LSU weather this storm? Pretty much it's been just Johnny O'Brien at the offensive end and nobody else.
That would be a good option, though, coming out of the timeout. Get the ball around the rim with Johnny O'Brien, score, get fouled at both.
A little three-quarter court press here by the Wildcats, extending their defense. Andre Stringer has checked into the ball game for LSU. He was a starter for most of the year. O'Brien on the mismatch, kicks it back out. Jarrell Martin with the long jumper, no good.
Kentucky switched all the action. Willie Cauley-Stein takes on the point guard, doesn't phase him.
Young with the jumper. Cauley-Stein got it to go.
That's a good sign for Kentucky. You're talking about the backup that checked in as a 7-footer, alive, active, getting loose on the boards.
A 7-point lead for Kentucky. Jordan Mickey, 10 on the shot clock, plenty of time, but they got to get to work here. Stringer a long three. That one didn't have a chance. But another possession, Hickey now.
Mark, again, no panic by Kentucky when they have to switch anything 1 through 5 in this game so far.
Martin on the drive, and he didn't get it up on the glass. And a blocking foul going to be called against the Wildcats. Willie Cauley-Stein. That's his first personal.
Well, you get into the teeth of the defense, and for the first time, Kentucky gets in a bind, and that's a bad call. Willie Cauley-Stein was there. I mean, he's set. I take that back. The ball was in the upward motion for the guy jumping into a pass or into a shot. The first replay, I didn't see it. The second replay, I did. A year ago, that would have been a charging call.
Definitely, it was outside the restricted area. Martin at the foul line, missing the first of 2. Martin, a 70% free throw shooter on the season, former Mr. Basketball in the state of Louisiana last year. One of the top-rated recruits brought on campus by Coach Jones. Pretty impressive numbers. I believe he was an ESPNU top 50 recruit as well. Makes the second of 2, and Siobhan Coleman going to come back into the ball game.
I don't expect Johnny Jones to press in this game. One of the reasons is they're a man down today. Tim Porterman back home because of death in his family. Did not even travel with LSU. And that's one of their better pressing lineups when he's on the floor.
Here's Harrison. Julius Randle has been kind of quiet so far, Jimmy. Here's Poitras from outside. LSU going to try and run it back. On the drive and a turnover by Coleman. The third. Olsen back out to Randle. Randle maybe taking his time, Jimmy, letting the game come to him a little bit here.
Well, he's being surrounded. And that's what all teams have done in the SEC, is put this guy in traffic as much as possible. What I liked about Kentucky on that transition push, Mark, they got to the third side of the floor within the first 8 seconds of the shot clock. Very good ball movement, trusting the offense early.
LSU sitting in that zone defense here. There's Randle on the baseline. Tough pass. It got through, and a foul going to be called against Johnny O'Brien.
Kentucky continues to flood the top of that zone where the 2 small guards are up top with a screener, 2 wings, and a point guard. So it's almost 4 guys from the free throw line up with 2 defenders.
That's the 14th foul against LSU. Wilson out top. Johnson, a wild spin move, lost the handle. Good hustle by Martin, still loose. And a jump ball, says Joe DeRosa, possession arrow in favor of the Wildcats.
Yeah, Aaron Harrison's got to get on the floor. He's got to dive on the floor instead of standing there looking at it and trying to pick it up, bending at his waist. Just got outworked that time, did number 2 in white.
A situation where both he and his twin brother Aaron have been on a steep growth and learning curve.
Short clock. Polson's normally in control of things like this.
There's Harrison, and rebounded by LSU. Great time inside to Terrell Martin. What a look.
Well, that was really well done. That's one of the areas of concern for Kentucky right now, in my eyes. 4 or 5 times a game, their transition defense is non-existent.
Lead is down to 4. A lob attempt picked off. Aaron pass by Harrison. Now a chance to cut it to 2. Joe DeRosa blows the whistle. John Calipari yelled something, couldn't quite make it out, but we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll break down the science of Julius Randle and his offense. Kentucky with a 4-point lead. Julius Randle just 0 for 1 so far. Jimmy, tell me about where his looks and scoring comes from.
Well, coming into today, he's had 414 offensive plays, and he's scoring 1 point per play, which is very good. But now you go inside those numbers. In isolations, he's below 1 point per play, and in true post-ups, he's below 1 point per play. Offensive rebound putbacks, transition scoring, and as a cutter, he's above 1 point per play. The reason why, in isolations and true post-up, that's where he gets double-teamed the most. You can double team him when he's isolated on the wing or at the elbow with an extra defender. You can obviously double team him on a true post touch-up. As an offensive rebounder in transition as a cutter, there is no second defender. That's where he's dominating the game.
I think Calipari looks at numbers like those and analytics like those, trying to get him on the move a little bit as a cutter to make him more efficient.
Yes, every coach is out in front of the advanced stats and the synergy stats that I look at all the time. And that kind of tells you his game, especially important in scouting reports.
Hickey was 6 on the shot clock for the Tigers. Drills a 3. Anthony Hickey making a homecoming of sorts. He's from nearby Hopkinsville, Kentucky. Played in the state championship game here in high school, where he won a state title. So he knows this gym pretty well.
He won a state title by throwing it to a teammate on the last second shot, and he threw it to a guy who hadn't made a shot all game.
It's called confidence.
He told Johnny Jones and I that this morning. I'm like, Coach, that's not a good sign from your point guard.
He knew his personnel a little differently, huh? Cauley Stein. Yep. And Randle, there it Chris, you talked about how he scored. There's an offensive rebound.
How do you double team an offensive rebound putback? You can't. And that's why he's averaging over 1.1 point per play on that type of play.
That's his first field goal of the ball game. Johnny O'Brien back in the ball game. Hickey firing away and knocks down consecutive threes. A
homecoming. He also, Anthony Hickey, his senior year, quarterbacked his team to the state championship game. And they got whipped by 40, but the impressive thing about that was he got in the police car and got an escort to play basketball that night. An all-around athlete.
A busy day for him.
Julius Randle, as an offensive rebound putback guy, shooting 60% on this type of play, and he gets fouled at a rate of 30% of the time. He is a beast when the ball is on the board. You see him get inside position and then just whip you with a lower body strength, and he gets away with a push-off like everybody else does in college ball when the ball's on the rim.
A lot of effort there by Julius Randle. Remember, he's seeking a little bit of atonement. He had just 6 points and 5 rebounds as he corrals another one in the first meeting against LSU. Tied at 15.
One more pass.
There it is, and Young from the baseline. That's what happens.
That's not the extra pass. That's the right pass. Extra passes result in turnovers. Right passes result in open looks.
Stringer misses a quick three. O'Brien with the rebound. And Randle with another pull.
Kentucky really getting the ball off the boards and running, aren't they?
Tough drive and one. Harrison got it to go.
Mark, I just think it's really hard for two 5'9", maybe 5'10" guards to hold up in transition defense against this type of size, because they're back in decent position, although they're backpedaling. I want them running, but right there, just the size and the length and the power to go right past. Boom. A smaller guard, a 6'6" guard, advantage all night long.
And Coach Jones letting Stringer hear about what he did wrong right there.
Well, he's telling him you've got to stop the ball out on the floor, because if that size gets near the rim, it's over.
Harrison coming off a 17-point game against Ole Miss. Kentucky back up by 6, looking for its 21st win of the season. Looking to improve to 11-3 in conference play.
Look where that zone is. Look how high it's lifted. Very similar to what Syracuse does with their zone. It almost resembles a 4 around 1.
Out of the double team, they swing it around weak side. Plenty of time on the clock. Hickey inside. O'Brien got lucky to get that pass, but he traveled with it.
Again, Kentucky has more length to work with in a 2-3 zone this year than Syracuse does. And John Calipari, that's not who he is at his core. But this team this year is going to use that zone, and it might be a big bonus for them in that NCAA tournament.
Young with the pull-up. Way strong. Rebounded by LSU. Hickey in a rush and kick. Stringer got it. Tell you what, those 3-point shooters, Andre Stringer and Anthony Hickey, can keep you in some ball games. At times they can shoot you out of it too.
Yep, and that's all on Andrew Harrison not stopping the basketball.
And there he is. That's Aaron Harrison, his twin brother, knocking down the short jumper.
Kentucky loves to play against zone defense. The ball's hot, the ball moves. They get better looks in their man offense, in their zone offense, than they do in their man at this point in the season.
See this Kentucky team taking small steps at a time. And Jimmy, what does it say about the Wildcats, the way that they grew, the way that they bounced back after losing to Florida in that next game?
That was huge. That was the biggest statement I had prior to the Ole Miss game. It was all hands on deck in Rupp Arena last Saturday night. New shooting jerseys, Rupp Arena crowd, 6th largest in all time, and a young Kentucky team bounced back, and they're bouncing right now on LSU.
Lee with the follow slam, and then a quick get back at the other end by Martin, and Calipari is not going to like that quick transition bucket by the Tigers.
How in the world can you score at one end and then get dunked on in the other within the first 4 seconds?
LSU keeping it close, down by 5.
I can tell you how. Lack of passion, lack of urgency. The key areas of winning ball games, transition defense.
Well, Progress with a nice looking jump hook with that left hand. It's time they get back on defense. O'Brien had nowhere to go and draws the foul by Lee. Under 7 minutes to go here in the first half. Kentucky leading by as many. We'll be back on the other side of this. Arena, Kentucky with a 7-point lead. Under 7 minutes to go. Mark Jones and Jimmy Dykes. Jimmy, as we go inside the play, what makes this Kentucky zone unique here?
Well, I like it because Kentucky is starting to lift their zone defense. Look at all 5 defenders, Mark, above that line. So they're lifting the zone. They're not afraid to come up and say, if you want to throw over our length, go ahead and try it. We have recovery speed and recovery length. Now, as this play goes on, working together really well. Again, the zone is lifted. The forwards come all the way high. At times, it's almost a 4-around-1. Trapping when the ball gets to the short corner, much like Syracuse does. And then once you get the ball into the teeth, boom, step up, trust the length to rotate down, and you can block the shot at the end. I think John Calipari likes what he sees out of his zone defense. And the higher it's lifted, the more difficult it is to go against.
Something that he said that they've started to work on quite a bit of late. And of course, he'll be quick to tell you, as O'Brien knocks down the first free throw, that most people remember the stops, but they don't remember when people get makes on you, when you come out of it.
The reason why I think Kentucky will use this zone in March, once John Adams, the coordinator of officials, gets control over the officials in the NCAA tournament, it's going to be a tight whistle. It's going to make sure that we're calling this game like we've initially called the game with the new rules this year. Teams like Syracuse, Kentucky, Virginia, teams that play a very good defense, either a zone or their man looks like a zone and they don't foul, that's going to be a real premium.
A little bit of a trend. I've heard of a few coaches going that way and spoken to some that have gone to zone defense that traditionally wouldn't play that defense, as Randle missed inside. Back comes LSU. Chance to cut it to 3.
Or Hickey gets that ball on you quick, doesn't he?
This LSU team averages almost 80 points a game on the season.
For LSU, just trying to hang in this game with the foul trouble of Johnny O'Brien in this first half.
Whistling a foul against James Young. That's his first. O'Brien on the bench right now.
He only has 1, but Johnny Jones knows that he's too valuable to pick up a bad second foul. I think he'll come back in this first half. He's sat over there because of that foul.
Hickey out top, working against Randle. Boy, look at the big guy moving his feet.
That's what I'm talking about. You have the confidence to switch out your 6'9", 230-pound guy on a quick point guard and no panic. How many teams can do that defensively? A very short list.
It gives you a lot of options come March. Charlie Stein! Oh, man! Punch it!
Julius Randle got rescued by a lazy bad pass that got tipped. And I talked about Willie Cauley-Stein has checked in lively and alert in this game.
And the building is turned up now. Traveling against Jordan Mickey. One more look. You talk about hitting the trailer, although it wasn't planned this way, Jimmy.
But Julius Randle, off the initial pass right here, boom, the ball gets tipped, and Willie Cauley-Stein making a rim run at the right time, at the right place on the floor.
I've heard you say, Jimmy, the ball finds energy.
Absolutely.
That time it found it.
That is a great example of it right there. If Willie Cauley-Stein is, in a home run trot coming to the offensive end, it's a turnover headed the other way.
It's the first foul against Jarrell Martin. Kentucky basketball. Harrison will inbound. Wildcats right now dominating in points in the paint. Well, they vowed that they would come with a lot more hustle and muscle here in the rematch. They've done that here in the first half. Harrison tipped up and O'Brien with the rebound. LSU, one of those teams, though, Jimmy, with a lot of spurts. They can score in bunches on it.
Absolutely. Johnny O'Brien's on the floor. Let's get him involved offensively.
Comes up short on that mid-range jump shot. After a quick start, O'Brien has cooled off. Here's Young on the baseline. Whistling a foul underneath. That's going to go against LSU. Up to the chagrin of Johnny Jones, pleading his case with Joe DeRosa.
I love how hard Kentucky is running this ball game so far. And that's going to be the next step for Kentucky to realize how organized they already are out of a 2-3 zone to flood the floor. Syracuse sets the standard. They set the bar in terms of how you run out of a zone, and Kentucky has that type of ability to do it as well.
17 foul in the bonus now. Cauley Stein at the free throw line. He's a 49% free throw shooter, but he knocks it down. The former high school wide receiver. A big touchdown dunk on that last trailer play, and now the biggest lead of the ball game for the Wildcats at 8 points.
We talked about Cal being a sports psychologist right now. At Ole Miss in the shoot-around, he told his guys, when we shoot free throws tonight, get the ball, don't guard yourself by overthinking it, get it, shoot it with confidence. And he told him today this morning, same thing. Whatever you told yourself at Ole Miss on the free throw stripe, let's continue down that path.
You never overstate details with such a young team. Inside, O'Brien with the jump hook. That's a man's move. He makes it a 6-point game. He's got 10.
Good work from behind by Johnny O'Brien. He has a really good feel for where to go, trusting the offense to find him.
Really happy with his decision, he says, to come back to school. He thought about entering his name into the NBA draft last year. Harrison with a wild shot and a miss. A chance to get this down to 4 for LSU. Anthony Hickey. O'Brien blocked by Randle. Jordan Mickey blocked by Randle. Harrison the other way. It's a 2-on-1 with his twin. And a bad decision as O'Brien ended up undercutting Harrison, who hit his head. And great to see him get up. Wow, he careened hard to the court. Folks, you could hear it.
You could hear it, exactly. Watch this.
To the Big Blue Nation, Rupp Arena. Coming up on the Mazda halftime report, Chris Cotter, Seth Greenberg, and Jay Billis at Cameron Indoor Stadium in Durham, North Carolina. Side of the big matchup tonight between Duke and Syracuse. Gators continuing their conference dominance. Marcus Smart returning in style, and Syracuse and Duke tonight. A preview of that one, and great to see Aaron Harrison bounce up as quickly and as resiliently as he did after this seemingly horrific crash to the court, Jimmy. As the officials took another look, Joe DeRosa right now engaging Jimmy Dykes in conversation, getting an interpretation of what happened, as O'Brien picked up his second personal foul on the play. Aaron Harrison trying to get that pass from Andrew, his brother, and holding his head after hitting it, obviously, on the court. I'm not sure that, you know, a flagrant is determined to be unnecessary and excessive contact. That would seem to be neither. That was inadvertent.
That was a basketball play by O'Brien, trying to make the hustle play, and he just happened to clip Aaron Harrison, in my view, at the wrong time. Off balance, and he had no way to catch himself. And I think it's just I see that as a common foul. Just happened to catch Aaron Harrison at the wrong place at the wrong time, and the 1-and-1.
Joe DeRosa came on and had a quick conversation with the Jimmy. What do you have to say on that?
Well, he wanted to see a little clearer monitor, you know, and gotten one more good look at it.
Aaron going to go to the free throw line. The monitor on the other side wasn't functioning quite as well as ours, so glad to be of assistance, as we're going to call it just a normal foul. And Aaron Harrison makes the first of two, a 79% free throw shooter. That's the second personal foul against Johnny O'Brien. O'Brien with 10 points in the ball game. And the lead is up to 8 now. 3:40 to go here in the first half. LSU needing a win here today to move them up into that group of the last 4 in. As Jimmy talked about at the top of the show, great hustle by Andrew Harrison. Pardon me, that's Aaron Harrison.
You know, John Calipari showed a replay of Patrick Young from a game at Tennessee a couple of weeks ago, where Patrick Young saved the game, won the game by giving him laying out on the floor. From that point forward, I've seen Kentucky now at least a couple of times a game making similar type effort play.
Jimmy, after you pointed out earlier, rightly so, that he didn't dive for a ball. Nice to see the youngster come back and dive one there.
Absolutely. Here comes the push again.
Young on the move. Lobs it up. And that's going to be a foul against Jordan Mickey. As Cauley Stein was set to punch another one home. That's going to be Jordan Mickey's first personal foul, but it's going to put Cauley Stein back on the free throw line. And Kentucky getting some stuff going in transition now a little bit.
Mark, as I sit here and watch Kentucky defensively, how big and long and active they are today. They're talking both in their man and their zone. I'm watching their ability to get the ball off the defensive board and then flood the floor in transition. I'll ask you, who can they not beat in the NCAA tournament?
I wouldn't take anyone out and say that Kentucky is incapable of beating anybody.
Now there's 25 or 30 teams that can beat them, but there's no one. There's no team that Kentucky can't beat.
Yeah, they're always going to have a puncher's chance.
John Calipari feels and sees the same thing.
Not sure that you want Willie Cauley-Stein on the free throw line at money time, though, after shooting that air ball. Tough move inside. And a good bucket by Jordan Mickey.
But forcing LSU to make hard, contested shots around the rim.
It's Jordan Mickey's first field goal of the ball game. He's been kind of conspicuous by his silence. He averages about 14 per. Young on the drive, through traffic.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's very difficult to zone Kentucky. You got multiple guys with size that can make the play with the ball. That time Young was actually playing the point guard spot with the Harrison twins playing the wing position.
Mickey out top. Mickey with the screen. Nice dime inside and the bucket good.
Yeah, you have
on Odo.
Mark, on a ball screen action like that, you have to come up and take it on. There was no take-on effort at all by Kentucky on their ball screen defense.
Harrison. Mickey up to Hickey. You got Mickey, Hickey, and a couple of Harrisons on the court here. Could get kind of tricky today, Jimmy.
Yeah, why not go right back to it? Test the ball screen defense again. This time Kentucky switches out with a little bit more urgency by Poitras.
There's the mismatch, but a hot pass couldn't be handled by Jordan Mickey. Great hustle. After thinking about it, Martin launching, no good. A whistle and a foul are going to be called on the reach. Looks like they caught Anthony Hickey that time.
LSU, 2 possessions ago, Mark, they come up and set a high ball screen, and Poitras with no urgency to get down and get low and take the action on. And Hickey just split it, got all the way to the rim, and Johnny Jones comes right back the next possession. If they can't guard it, go right back to it.
That's the 10th foul against LSU, so it's going to be 2 shots for Andrew Harrison. That's the 3rd personal foul against Anthony Hickey. That's kind of pivotal for the Tigers. Poitras takes a seat on Calipari's bench. And Jared Polson getting set to check in.
Mark, if you're going to make a run in the NCAA tournament, you have to know as a coach, what am I going to get out of my point guard every night? And John Calipari starting to get a little closer to what he's going to get out of Andrew Harrison. Andrew Harrison now starting to own the possession. And in the past, he's just played the possession, and there's a major difference on the offensive end.
Corner jump shot, whistle and one, a foul as Siobhan Coleman drains the 3. The foul is going to go against Julius Randle.
I don't know. I don't see the contact there. And Joe DeRosa, the baseline official, right in front of the play, doesn't see anything. And the trail official, Ron Groover, makes the call. That's what John Calipari's complaint was.
And Coleman completes the 4-point play, and in a blink, it's down to a 3-point lead. A little 3-quarter court pressure now by LSU.
We won't see a lot of this today by LSU because they're a man down, but enough to test Kentucky right before the half.
And a fresh ball handler in the ball game for the Wildcats, Polson.
So if nothing else, LSU got a look at what Kentucky's going to do against their full court press, and they can talk about it at halftime.
Polson out top. Aaron Harrison in the corner, back out front. 6 on the shot clock. Young thought about it. Now drives it in. Great block by Odo. Cauley Stein gets it, and they won't get a shot off in time. So with 31.7 to go, they can go for a tie or making a one-point game here?
I don't like the top of LSU's 2-3 zone, but I do like the back of LSU's 2-3 zone because of the length of the size and their convergence on the ball. Good job by Odo to only get ball up top. And you're right. Johnny Jones has a chance to. I mean, they are in this game, and a huge momentum shot here for LSU, at least the opportunity.
You're going to run it all the way down here?
Yeah, you take the last shot of the half. You might give yourself a chance for an offensive rebound. So if that's the case, you take the shot with about 4 or 5 to go.
Well, the LSU Tigers to a man. We're talking about loving the idea of playing on the big stage here in front of 23,000 at Rupp. Nice feed inside. Odo might have gotten away with a walk. No, he didn't. As DeRosa blew the whistle with 4.8 to go. Now Kentucky has a chance.
Now LSU went too quick. They triggered the play too quick. Now you always have the threat to throw it to Willie Cauley-Stein, let him then kick it out and get Harrison or Young on the sprint. Plenty of time.
Here's Aaron. Young wasn't expecting the pass, and that's going to be the end of the first half. Failing to get a shot off. But a good first half for Aaron Harrison. Almost at his season average with 11 points here in the first half. Plenty of basketball to go. 20 more minutes before the Wildcats can get that revenge they talked about. Stay tuned for the College Game Day from Cameron Indoor Stadium for the Mazda halftime report. Folks, is coming up right after these messages. The berth in the NCAA tournament. Mark Jones courtside along with Jimmy Dykes. Jimmy, Kentucky with a slight margin here at the break, but looking forward into the second half of action. Man, LSU kind of fortunate to be where they're sitting right now when you look at what they've done. And then Kentucky doing a nice job.
Absolutely. No, I think Kentucky played pretty well, and LSU's only down 3 right now. You know, Johnny O'Bryant, the most efficient guy so far in this ball game. He's got 10 points. He's only played 13 minutes. What I do like about Kentucky, they've only taken 5 3-point shots in this game. When they lost at LSU, they settled. They took 23-point shots, and they didn't get to the free throw line. Kentucky's only 2 free throw attempts shy of what their total number was in Baton Rouge. This game's far from over. Johnny O'Bryant feels really comfortable in this building right now. And LSU, again, they know what's at stake. They win this ball game, they go from about 45th right now on the at-large list all the way up to maybe the last team in right now. That's how much of an opportunity they have.
A lot at stake right now for them as we take a look at what really got Kentucky rolling here. It was the able to get into transition, Jimmy. That really helped.
They got the ball off the defensive boards. I love Kentucky's zone defense. I thought they were alert. They were active. They talked really loud. And again, John Calipari's teams have always been the best at defending the rim, getting the ball off the rim, and then flooding you with wing speed and advancing the ball off the pass. And Kentucky did it 4 or 5 times in this game. A great hustle play by Willie Cauley-Stein. We talked about the ball finds energy, and Willie Cauley-Stein brought energy when he checked in.
Look at the cogent numbers from the first half, and let's see what kind of start Johnny O'Brien can get off to here in the second half. Remember, we got those quick 6 points in the first few minutes of the start of the game. Martin off the screen. Jordan Mickey on the baseline. Mickey had a quiet first half of action and gets off to a good start here. He's got 4.
Now that zone's a lot bigger when only one of the 2 small guards is up top for LSU. The short side of the zone is right there where Willie Cauley-Stein's at the elbow.
Harrison on the floater. Here's Hickey.
Really the only thing Kentucky didn't do well defensively the first half was their transition defense.
They had Hickey run up their backs a couple of times, even after makes. Jordan Mickey on the baseline working against Harrison. Tough contested jumper good by Anthony Hickey. He likes this gym. He's had some good games here going back to his high school days, and this is the first lead for LSU since they led 6-5.
When the ball doesn't lie, when he's jumping up in this building, he's snapping it off with confidence with a great rotation. And shot the ball well.
1 point LSU lead. Harrison on the drive. Whistling. Looks like we got an offensive foul going to be called against Harrison.
I didn't like the decision by Harrison. I didn't think he was shot ready on the catch, because his pretty quick ball reversal to him hit him right on the numbers. Because he wasn't shot ready, then he got into a really slow, methodical drive. Not a good start for Kentucky out of that locker room.
Just what you alluded to. Calipari looked at Harrison and said, hey, shoot it.
Absolutely.
Johnny O'Brien with a series of jab steps. Spins around and draws the foul on Cauley Stein. Only Cauley Stein, interestingly enough, getting the start here in the second half in place of Dakari Johnson. What do you make of that substitution?
Well, I think John Calipari loved the energy that Willie Cauley-Stein brought when he checked in. And he was the better defender on Johnny O'Brien. The trouble that John Calipari has right now in this game, Johnny O'Brien, Mark, is getting his touches about the 12 to 14-foot mark on the floor. You can't double him at that part of the floor because he'll pick you apart as a passer.
And as quickly as Dakari Johnson came out at the beginning of the game, Cauley-Stein comes out here at the beginning of the second half. Back to the bench. And it's a three-point Tiger lead. The crowd a little restless here. Andrew Harrison. Off the screen. Had a good look at it. One and done, though.
I'm telling you, though, any shot taken against the zone before the ball ever gets below the free throw line extended, it's advantage to the defense.
Whistling foul underneath against Kentucky. That's against Dakari Johnson. Good start in both first and second halves here for LSU. Right now on a 14-3 run going back to the end of the first half.
There's a switch out again. That's Julius Randle, a big, strong four-man, taking on the quick point guard of LSU, and no panic out of Kentucky's defense.
They find a mismatch underneath, and a foul going to be called against Andrew Harrison. Good ball fake and patience by Jordan Mickey, who earns a trip to the foul line.
Andrew Harrison's not played yet in this second half. And I think John Calipari is going to call him over and talk to him about that. Again, you have to know what you're going to get out of your point guard on every possession. He wasn't ready on the offensive end as a shooter. He's been exposed a couple of times defensively. And Kentucky's going to make a deep run in the NCAA tournament. A ton is on this guy's shoulders, as is every point guard that's leading a quality team.
Well, what LSU has shown a lot of poise here to begin the second half. They lead by 5. And the Big Blue Nation a little bit more vociferous and restless right now. Good look to Randle in the paint. Surrounded by 3 people. Nowhere to go, and he got ripped. Hickey a 2-on-1. Took it all himself, and maybe not a good move. He had Coleman to pass to, and Young draws the foul. And they're going to count the bucket.
Mark, you're right about the decision by Hickey. When you're only 5'9", it's hard for you to finish in transition as a scorer, and it's hard for you to be the defender in transition. There's the bucket that gets counted because of the rise of Mickey late.
It might have been still on the way up. Couldn't tell from that angle. It appeared to be.
But they did. They counted,
yeah,
right?
Yep.
Let's see if that ball is still. I think it's on its downward arc.
Johnson inside. And almost had an opportunity for another three-point play. That foul against Jordan Mickey, his second.
Johnson at the line for 2.
Dakari Johnson, the freshman out of Brooklyn, New York, played at Montverde Academy.
See the offensive rebounding potential of Kentucky. They're the best in the country, getting about 43% of their misses on the offensive end. And sometimes in that NCAA tournament, you have to win a game just because you can do one thing extraordinarily well. That's what Kentucky can do to you. Win a game they're not supposed to win because they just kill you on the offensive glass.
Johnson, only a 47% free throw shooter, makes the first of 2. That last foul, actually, you saw the officials conversing at the scorers table. It was changed to Coleman. That's his second.
John Calipari goes now with Hawkins because he's the best still perimeter defender that he can put in the game.
Hickey with the three, a little bit short. Got his own rebound, though. Tough pass. Harrison almost picked it off. And it's Kentucky basketball. That's what Kentucky was working on in practice. The double team that we saw right there on Johnny O'Brien.
Yeah, and the double team is going to come, for the most part, from the opposite big guard on Johnny O'Brien. You don't want to double off of the opposite big because then Mickey gets loose on the offensive glass.
There's Poitras. Harrison on the drive. Tough shot. Followed hard and well by Poitras.
That's what I'm talking about. Their ability to just out-muscle you and bully you when that ball's on the offensive glass.
Hawkins in the ball game for Kentucky during that last break. O'Brien calling for it, pleading for the pass. And he gets it. Goes with it quick before the double can get there. And a whistle and a foul going to be called, as Jordan Mickey was a recipient of that good bounce and the loose ball. He'll go to the foul line for a pair.
Again, Mark, Johnny O'Brien continues to catch the ball about the 12-foot mark, so it's making some indecision by Kentucky. Do we come with an opposite guard or not? He catches the basketball, and then you're going to see the guard come down, boom, but it's a late come down by Aaron Harris. If Johnny O'Brien is getting deeper post touches, that guard's going to automatically come. I think it's an adjustment by Johnny Jones, knowing let's get Johnny O'Brien to catch balls at the 12-foot mark and make Kentucky have some indecision. Do we double or do we not?
Nice little chess match amongst these two great coaches on the sidelines as Jordan Mickey knocks down the first free throw, 74% free throw shooter. Leads the conference in blocked shots. And it's tied at 41 after the miss. LSU in that zone. Is part of the reason why Kentucky's offensive rebounding so well, because of that zone defense?
Well, but they've done it all season long. Kentucky has against man and zone. It's just how they're wired. It's how they're built.
A lot of contact, and that's going to be an offensive foul against Dakari Johnson. That's his second personal foul as Johnny O'Brien careened to the deck. Welcome back, everyone, to Rupp Arena. Look at one of the all-time Kentucky greats, Dan Issel. As we take a look at this week's bracketology, brought to you by Allstate. Tennessee right now engaged in an overtime battle with Texas A&M. It just went final this moment. And Texas A&M winning that game by 3. So, Jimmy, what does that do to that projected seeding for Tennessee?
I think Tennessee will now be out. In the next bracketology by Joe Lunardi, I think that loss will kick Tennessee out. They're probably like the first 4 out, but a damaging loss to Tennessee. They got swept by Texas A&M this year. Tennessee blew a 17-point lead at home in Knoxville earlier this year against the Aggies. A bad loss at the wrong time by the Volunteers.
Johnny O'Brien on the baseline, muscles up, and rebounded by Julius Randle. Hawkins back to Harrison. Harrison, tough shot. And there's that offensive rebounding prowess by Dakari Johnson. Dakari Johnson been putting in a lot of extra work. Been running a mile a day before each practice, getting his conditioning up.
There's that 2-3 zone. Kentucky again not afraid to lift it, so it almost shapes up like a 4-1 zone, with Johnson being the one right in front of the rim.
Jordan Mickey with a tough shot and tipped in by Johnny O'Brien.
That's on Julius Randle. As soon as that ball got to the center of the court in that paint, he has got to get inside position on that right side block.
Bryant with 14. Harrison thought about it. Here's Hawkins. Young on the drive. Missing the floater. A wrestling match underneath. And a foul called. Going to go against the Tigers. Well, some of the league's top superstars headline our NBA Sunday Showcase. First at 1. Chris Paul and the Clippers visit the top scorer in the league when they take on KD and the Thunder. Then at 3:30, LeBron James and the Heat taking on Joakim Noah and the Bulls. It all starts with 12:30's NBA Countdown, presented by Speed Stick Gear. What about LeBron James? Finishing off that drive a couple of nights ago, they busted his nose. Serge Ibaka did it on his way to the bucket. He dunks it home, and there's no foul.
No foul. It's similar to what Julius Randle goes through at times. Guys just bounce off of him, and if Julius Randle is a normal-sized guy, he's getting fouled another 3 or 4 times a game.
Tough to officiate those great athletes sometimes. Harrison with the sweeping hook shot. That might have been tipped in by Jordan Mickey.
How about Kevin Durant? Last week he says, I want to give me a nickname. I want to be known as the servant. How cool is that?
Yeah.
All about others.
Well, he is serving a bunch of guys right now. O'Brien inside. Kept alive. And Johnson with the rebound. LSU back in transition this time. Young launching. Randle beat everybody to the loose ball.
Another possession where Kentucky got the ball, Mark, on the third side of the floor within about the first 11 seconds. Very good ball movement.
Young again. This one goes.
That's really good action. Again, 4 guys across the top of that zone. Using one as a screener, then it becomes a number situation on a ball reversal.
And Johnny Jones is going to talk things over. Timeout, LSU. Dyke, let's see how Kentucky was able to do it together. Brought to you by Radio Shack.
Well, they're doing it together in terms of what do they do best. The best offensive rebounding team in the country is the Kentucky Wildcats. They get about 43% of their missed shots off that offensive glass. 5 different guys today have an offensive rebound, and they're scoring at a high percentage. For Kentucky right now, right at about 60% offensive rebounding rate in that game, in this game.
So what, there have been times where you could hold their experience as faulty and the culprit on some errors, but not a lot to cite in terms of their effort tonight. I mean, in terms of faulting it, they put forth pretty good effort here today, this young team, and they're getting better.
Absolutely. You see Texas second in the country on that offensive rebound numbers. Be a big part of that game against Kansas later on.
Out of the timeout, Jordan Hickey got a good look, but missed the shot. Harrison, great in and out move, and got stripped out of bounds off his knee. And back the other way to LSU.
Good example right now. Next. Bad play. Get to the next one. In the focus of John Calipari since they returned home from Ole Miss. And it's important for John Calipari to get to the next play. Andrew Harrison to get to the next play. Move on.
There's Johnny O'Brien. Boy, using that offhand so well. Remember him as a freshman a couple of years ago. He wasn't nearly as polished a basketball player as he is right now.
But he had no help. Now he's got some size to help him. They continue to give him touches 13, 14, 15 feet from the rim, and you can't double him out of that spot. As opposed to just throwing it to him on the low block, Johnny Jones has said, okay, if you want to double him, we're going to put you in a bind. We're going to continue to move him around on the floor at the elbow, the short corner, out on the wing, and let him go to work. Because if you double team him on that touch, he's going to pick you apart with the holes in the defense.
Now Bryant's going to have a little more help next year if he's around. He has a top 6 center coming in, according to Paul Biancardi. Was speaking with him a little bit earlier. Next year, Albert Robertson, wide body coming in. One of the top players in America. Harrison knocking down a couple of free throws. Lead is up to 4.
Johnny Jones is going to go up probably with a ball screen or something because he thinks that Hickey has the advantage with Andrew Harrison guarding.
The ball knocked out of bounds and off of LSU. Looked like Martin lost the handle. 4-point lead for the Wildcats when we come back to Lexington. Presented by Sonic tonight at 7 on ESPN. Syracuse number 1, Duke number 5. 7 o'clock Eastern time. Syracuse going to be in unfamiliar territory, bouncing back from that loss against BC, their first of the season. Duke has lost 4 straight against ranked opponents. Jabari Parker starting to regain his groove and his mojo that he had earlier this year.
A lot of things that will be broken down in that game. before, during, and after. But you go back to game 1, Syracuse scored their final 23 points in the paint or at the free throw line against Duke. And Duke struggled keeping the ball away from the rim against North Carolina the other night.
Quick transition by LSU off the steal, and it's down to a 2-point game.
Again, the transition defense, or lack of, by Kentucky has helped LSU hang in this ball game.
There's Young. Charlie Stein facing up. Harrison on the drive with that left hand going glass. Aaron Harrison with the bucket. He's got 15. Hickey, that's a tough pass. O'Brien got it anyway and got refused by Charlie Stein.
Kentucky has only taken 6 3-point shots in this game against a lot of zone. They are not settling for jump shots. They're settling for attacking the paint, getting into the teeth of the defense.
That was Andrew Harrison with the hoop. O'Brien. Still plenty of time on the shot clock, down to 12. Playing inside out. Anthony Hickey, nice feed to Jordan Mickey. O'Brien with the rebound. O'Brien again. No whistle. Man, it's a wrestling match under there. They are battling.
O'Brien got fouled. He got fouled on his second shot attempt, and no whistle in Rupp Arena right now for LSU.
Randle spinning back to his left. Young for 3.
Harkey shot a bad pass. You don't shoot a bad pass. The ball was thrown at Young's knees.
Anthony Hickey with the finger roll.
You shoot a bad pass, therefore it's connected to the transition defense ball.
12 points down the ball game for Anthony Hickey. Down by just 4 past the midway point of the second half, and John Calipari wants to talk it over. He calls a timeout with 9:39 to go. That was a critical answer for LSU. They were on the verge of losing contact a little bit. But Hickey with a couple of quick plays in transition, especially, Jimmy.
Well, it can't be about you. And James Young this time, watch the pass come out from Randle, and it's thrown low. He goes all the way down to his knees to get it. So it put him out of rhythm, and it's early in the shot clock. And then not only does he shoot a bad pass, there's no urgency whatsoever from James Young to stop the ball and funnel it out of the middle part of the floor. Thus, John Calipari says, I've seen enough, timeout.
Here's a look at our games coming up on the ESPN Family Networks. UCLA, Stanford, Syracuse, Duke, Missouri, Alabama, and the SEC. And Jimmy, thinking of and talking about your plane and who's on it, who's off.
No, it's a jet.
With your jet, sorry. Executive jet. I'm sorry. Hey, what about the work of Middle Tennessee, one of my sleeper teams this year? 21-7 right now, 11-2 in conference, first place in Conference USA. Coach Kermit Davis doing a great job this year.
Yeah, they really know how to ball. They play hard. They didn't get enough done in non-conference play to be considered for that large. I don't think we have a lot of those out there right now that are outside the power, what I'd call the power 6 or 7 or 8 conferences. So all those Middle Tennessees and different teams, I think, are going to have to play their way in through that conference tournament. But Kermit, year after year, just got a bunch of dudes that like to show up and play ball.
Yeah, they're playing well right now. They've won 9 in a row after today's win against Marshall. Here's Harrison out top.
You know who else has a bunch of dudes that just want to show up and play ball? Wichita State.
Yes. Are they a #1 seed? Are they going to get one?
Yes, they should.
Okay, Harrison off glass. Wow, Boythorus went to flush that home, and they're going to call offensive foul on him. He came over the top. That's his second personal foul, but you like to see fouls of aggression like that if you're Calipari.
Absolutely. This is how Alex Boythorus can help his team. And there he's going up over the top of the defender, and right there, just
he's got his hand in somebody's face there. It looked like Jordan Mickey.
Climbed all over the top of Mickey.
He's really talking to the hand that time. As O'Brien's going to get a quick breather. Wonder how long Coach Jones can actually leave him off the floor for. He's been a big focal point of what they're doing, even working off those double teams.
Yeah, he might try to get probably there's 9:16 on the game clock. So if he can get him to that 8-minute mark and then set him out during the 90 seconds or 2 minutes that wraps around, he's actually going to get him a lot of rest time and only miss a minute 16 of game time. That is the plan.
Jordan Mickey knocks down a pair. Tell you what, LSU hanging around, showing a lot of toughness and temerity today. refusing to back down in front of this daunting crowd here.
And now the zone up top by LSU is a small zone, so you can operate around the elbow without any resistance.
Great high-low action, but Poitras couldn't finish. And a chance now for LSU to tie it up.
Yeah, Kentucky's going to be in a, they are in a ball game, and I think they're going to stay in a ball game because LSU is determined, and their sizing around the rim is something that can match Kentucky.
For the tie, a little bit short by Jordan Mickey.
If LSU can just keep the ball out of the paint, it would greatly help their chances. Kentucky's not making threes.
Poitras gets that one to go. The lead back up to 4. Johnny O'Brien getting a rest on the bench. So where does the offense come from now if you're LSU?
Well, Mickey can score. Stringer and Hickey, 2 years ago they had no offense around those two guys, so they're always a threat to jump up and stick one on.
Shot clock running down to 11.
No ball screen, just one-on-one.
Little ISO. Dawkins, good defense. Hawkins, good defense. And back comes Harrison. The lob, and nobody home. Well defended by Coleman, who got a body on Poitras. Never did get that jet on the takeoff strip.
We may see it before the day is over.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is presented by 5 Hour Energy. Focus is the feeling of clarity and alertness. It's the feeling you get from 5 Hour Energy.
All right, and welcome back to See What Jimmy Sees.
Well, the coolest uniforms in college basketball, UMass last night with that anthracite and the short sleeve look. I love that look. UMass, to me, has the coolest uniform in the college game right now. The coolest coach, the thing is cool, is Tony Bennett. He has Virginia in position to maybe win the ACC. The guy never gets rattled. He looks like he can still play the game as a college player. The coolest guy, in my opinion, Tony Bennett. The coolest player, this guy's a runaway. Jordan Jet, not only because of his game, but how he plays in his hair. And the last thing I see, the coolest cheerleaders are Kentucky's. They've hung their 20th national title banner this year. Kentucky has. That's cool.
That's dominance.
Yeah, when you work that hard at something and you dominate that something, to me, that's cool.
All right. There's Stringer from downtown, always a threat, as you alluded to a moment ago.
Yep.
Johnny O'Brien has checked back in the ballgame during that break. Stringer, a quiet 6.
Stringer has tremendous leg strength for a 5'9" guard. You go back and watch that shot, the pop and the elevation that he has to rise over long defenders. Impressive.
Randle kicks it out. Here's Harrison on the drive. Back out to Hawkins, a 3. Left it short. LSU keeping it alive. They got a 3-on-1. Hickey. And a whistle and a foul going to be called. Nice pass by Stringer to Hickey. And Hickey will go to the free throw line with a chance to give the Tigers the lead.
I don't think LSU has any thoughts right now of going away in this ball game. They know what's at stake. That's why I talked about small guys, hard for them to finish in transition. But their energy level has gone to another level the last couple, 3 minutes. And it looks like Johnny Jones sending the message in our zone. Just keep the ball out of the paint and make Kentucky make jump shots the remaining 7 minutes.
Well, he's only a 58% free throw shooter. He missed the first of 2. Had 11 points and 6 assists in that first run against Kentucky. An LSU win about 3.5 weeks ago.
I'm getting a lot of hits on Twitter, by the way, for you calling my jet a plane.
I'm sorry.
I just want you to know what you've upset. You've upset Jimmy D's Jet Nation right now.
Well, you've upgraded with a little wireless on your jet. Is that it? Tied at 55. LSU in the midst of an 8-2 run.
Look at the lag time for Kentucky at 25 on the shot clock, and they're just now getting into their zone offense.
Ollie Stein working on the block. Might have gotten away with a walk. Rebounded by LSU and a chance to take the lead here.
Kentucky taking some quick, guarded shots right now. Hard shots.
Perry seemed to have moved on to the next play, though, exhorting his troops from the sideline.
Absolutely.
A supportive rant a moment ago. Here's Stringer. 12 on the shot clock for LSU. Hickey out top. Calls for the ball screen from O'Brien. They got the switch. No matter, raising up. And they'll get another possession off the carom right to Stringer.
And because of all the switching, you got the 4 guy and the 5 guy for Kentucky. That point was guarding the 2 small guards.
Here's Hickey. Get it into O'Brien. No double team. He goes quick with it. Ran into traffic. Still got a decent look, although contested. Harrison to Harrison. And he finishes.
How good have they been in that part of the game today, those Harrison twins? Again, you're not going to out-dribble the basketball against transition defense. You have to throw it ahead and trust one another. You see a heavy dose of Johnny O'Brien touches right now for LSU.
Coleman stopped up. O'Brien with the mid-range. A little bit strong. Good battle underneath on the glass, and that's going to be a foul against Harrison. Andrew Harrison. Transition again, a big theme in this game, Jimmy.
Yeah, Kentucky's transition defense has let them down, but their transition offense has been really good. 2 bounces of the basketball. They cover about 85 feet on the floor. And those wings are running wide. Harrison on one wing, Young on the other, and a big point guard in the middle.
Jordan Mickey at the foul line, shooting 74% from there on the season. Mickey, another one of those highly touted recruits that Johnny Jones has gotten to commit. Out of Dallas, Texas, a 6'8" freshman.
He's a big guy. Look at that. Look at the heel lift. I see too many big guys as free throw shooters. They shoot flat-footed, and they get no lift from their heels. And that time he rose up, got up on his toes, nice release.
11 points to go along with 9 rebounds now. Tied at 57. Every possession now for LSU. That much more important when you look at what's coming up down the road in March. And a potential berth in the NCAA tournament. Here's Randle. Through the traffic. Boy, that's a big-time rebound by O'Brien.
And remember, Julius Randle is less than 1 point per play on ISOs, and that's exactly what it was.
Terrell Martin gives LSU the lead, 59-57.
Go back and grade the film. Kentucky has given up 10, maybe 12 points today in transition defense. Lack up.
Harrison driving and gets it to go. That was Aaron Harrison. He has 19. He's the higher scoring of the two twins. Good back tap by Aaron Harrison. And they got a run out of 2-on-1. Young, and that's going to be a blocking foul. And that was a good call. Hickey slid over as Young was in his upward motion. That's the 4th foul on Anthony Hickey. And we've got about 4.5 minutes to go, so he's got to be real careful here.
And what's at stake for Johnny Jones is remaining 4:26. We talked about it all game long, was in our open. LSU right now being projected to be about the 45th team on the list of 36 at large. We talked to Joe Lunardi, who's all over this thing. But Joe Lunardi and I talked earlier, and he said if LSU were to win today at Kentucky, they would leapfrog maybe 6, 7, 8 teams. That's how big of an opportunity LSU has in Rupp.
Young goes 1 for 2 out of bounds in LSU basketball. Down by 1 with 4:25 to go. LSU's going with his starters, as is Kentucky right now. Minus actually Holly Stein is in there right now for Tagari Johnson. O'Brien with a nice tuck in. He was open, now double teamed on the catch. Boy, they smothered him quickly. He's in trouble, and he calls a timeout.
Mark, the double team that time was exactly what John Calipari wanted. And why did you double team? Because this time you can, because of where O'Brien gets the initial touch. Instead of the 14-foot mark, he's going to catch it just on the box. And there's the opposite guard came in, and that Harrison comes down as the opposite big guard to double it up. So if you're LSU, you know, okay, the rest of this ball game, if we throw it to Johnny on the box, Kentucky's going to come with the opposite big guard. From the opposite elbow. So let's continue to get Johnny O'Brien touches around the 12, 14-foot mark so they can't come with this type action.
O'Brien, otherwise a rough shooting day. 6 of 20 from the field. A lot of those looks have been contested inside over the long arms of Cauley Stein and Dakari Johnson. Well, Johnny Jones has this LSU program going in the right direction, though. I mentioned the talented big he has coming in next year. Off the inbound, O'Brien with the left hand rims out. And LSU going to get another opportunity here. Hickey. Martin got it. And it's a 1-point lead for the Tigers.
Boy, the effort level, the energy level, even the sweep and the strong move by O'Brien, although it was a miss, sending the message to Kentucky.
Harrison steps through, and a tough shot made by Aaron Harrison.
LSU, they just can't keep the ball out of the paint in their zone. It's really disturbing to me. I'm sure it's disturbing to Johnny Jones.
Inside to O'Brien. And an offensive foul. Each team delivering blows and taking blows.
Well, LSU's not going to go away in this game. They have too much at stake. Their energy level and their effort and their passion and their urgency right now, keeping pressure on Kentucky. Their biggest problem is that play right there in a zone. Keep the ball out of the paint.
Great finish coming up here. We bring you more action on the court later tonight. 7:30 on ESPNU. Big 12 showdown. Texas taking on Andrew Wiggins in Kansas. Then at 10 on ESPN2. The Aztecs hoping to keep the momentum rolling as they take on New Mexico. The college hoops double dip tonight on ESPNU and ESPN2. Both games also live on Watch ESPN. New Mexico, the Lobos with Coach Craig Neal trying to get it done down there.
I like teams that have older, really good players. And Kentucky has younger, really good players. McDermott at Creighton, C.J. Fair, Xavier Thames at San Diego State, Scotty Wilbekin at Florida, Joe Harris at Virginia, Russ Smith at Louisville. I look at those teams and think their best players are older guys. It took an older team, Florida, to beat Kentucky in here last Saturday.
Leadership out of bounds off of Cauley Stein. It's going to stay Tiger basketball. Man, there is a lot of traffic in the paint there when Johnny O'Brien catches the ball.
Well, again, Johnny Jones says, okay, we're going to go get him on the elbow and let him isolate and go one-on-one. Kentucky throwing big bodies around him now on the bounce.
I think he's going to pull it out. Bryant working against Cauley Stein. The double team comes. In trouble again and a bad pass. Yeah. They forced the turnover off the double team.
LSU should have learned, Martin, 2 possessions ago. They saw it right in front of their bench. You post up Johnny O'Brien on a low block. Kentucky's going to come with a double with a big guard. Don't put him down there in that bad spot.
See if the Wildcats can make them pay at the other end. Young on the drive. O'Brien is going to be called for the foul. That's his 4th. With 2:18 to go, that sends James Young to the foul line, shooting 66% on the season.
What I love about Kentucky's zone offense today, they've only taken, looks like 8 3-point shots in this game. 21 of Kentucky's 24 field goals have been from the paint in this ball game. They've taken 1 3-point, and they made 1 3, and they've made 2 long twos. They've been very determined to drive that thing at the rim.
Let me ask you about the Wildcats' 3-point shooting. They shoot 32.7% from downtown in the season. Can a team that shoots that poorly from downtown win ultimately?
They can. This team can because they get such a high percentage on the offensive glass. If they weren't such a dominant offensive rebounding team, that number would ultimately be why they're going to get kicked out of the NCAA tournament.
2-point Kentucky lead. O'Brien on the other block this time. Double teamed. Swarmed. Got it out this time to Stringer, who almost got a little anxious and walked with it. Under 2 minutes to go.
The ball screen for him and let him go one-on-one.
Hickey raising up. Got it! That's a splashdown. Anthony Hickey. How's that for a homecoming?
When you come out and you hedge or you switch, you have to get hands high against both those little guards because they are wired to jump up and stick one. And Julius Randle comes out. He has his hand out instead of his hand up. But you know what? That defense wasn't that bad. Hickey, you said earlier, has won a state championship in that building. It's a little bit of a late closeout or late challenge by Randle, but it wasn't that bad. Dude just made a bucket.
Sometimes good offense beats good defense, and Anthony Hickey, who actually leads the conference in assist to turnover ratio, shows that he's more than just a point guard taking care of the basketball. Comes up with a big bucket right there to give his team the lead.
You watch how this win, if it is for LSU, will resonate. They will go from not even being mentioned the first 4 out or the next 4 out, and they will slide a long ways up on that list, I've got a feeling, if they're able to close this thing out.
Anthony Hickey played in the state title game in high school back here in Rupp Arena, winning it. And we talked about his assist to turnover ratio. It's 7-1 today. That's pretty good, Jimmy Dykes.
He doesn't turn it over. He doesn't turn it over against Kentucky especially. I think he only has 2 turnovers out of all the minutes that he's played against Kentucky in his career. And anytime you take on Kentucky is taking on a former Mr. Basketball out of this state. You know his will to win today is going to be at a whole nother level.
Got a bunch of family and friends here watching Anthony Hickey, and there's a look at what's at stake for LSU today. In some sense, whether it be large, small, real, or perceived, they're playing for their NCAA berth today. Now, if you're the Wildcats and you're coming out on this possession, Jimmy, still plenty of time. I mean, it's just a one-possession game, 1:45 to go. Who's the likely candidate here on offense to ultimately have the best chance to shoot, or who do you want to go to if you're Coach Cal?
Well, what has worked for Coach Cal against the zone has been getting to the 3rd or 4th side of the floor and then driving it right to the middle and getting it up on the offensive glass. There's no way this should be settled with a jump shot on the perimeter. This might be.
To a wide-open Harrison who missed it. That was Andrew Harrison.
That's not what they've done all day. They have not made shots on the perimeter all day long. They come out of a timeout, and it looked like that's what they drew up to get.
See if they can move on and get to the next play. LSU focuses on this play. O'Brien at the elbow, now down in the block. LSU going deep into the shot clock here, 10.
And you know Hickey has a lot of confidence. The rim looks big to Hickey right now.
They cleared out for him on the drive. Hickey, wild one. Got part of the rim, but not a great shot. Well contested. Here's Harrison.
No, I don't like you getting that close to the rim because he's so small. He's better pulling up.
And Johnny Jones, the head coach of the Tigers, saying, guys, rebound. Had his hands above his head and pulling down, saying, guys, we got to rebound. Right now, they get a chance to play defense in the half court with 46.9 to go. Holding on to a tenuous 1-point lead. Well, Jimmy, LSU coming into this game 16-9, 7-6 in conference play. A win here today, we talked about it over and over. It goes a long way for them.
It goes a long, long ways for them. I mean, this would be a resonating win across the country on national TV. And sometimes in the selection committee's eyes, boy, that one really pops and jumps out at you. Florida came in here and did it last Saturday night. And now Kentucky, they've allowed LSU to stay in this ball game. Their transition defense has let them down a little bit. And I said right off the top, LSU has the size, that pro size that you have to hold up in a ball game. LSU has that, and they've matched Kentucky blow for blow.
They've had so many near misses this season. Jimmy, Terrell Martin in that game against UMass earlier in the year sprained his ankle in the first minute of the ball game. They barely lost that game. They would have been right there at the end had he not. And there's a look at their tournament resume. They've had so many close ones. At some point, you've got to break through, and this might be. They beat Kentucky the first time around. 14 on the shot clock. Harrison.
Or keep that zone tight if you're LSU. Almost all 5 guys in the paint.
Mid-range is short. Rebounded by the Tigers with 25 seconds to go.
They have to foul.
And a timeout called by Johnny Jones. 22.5 to go.
What has LSU done with their defense over the last couple of minutes? I think when that shot went, all 5 purple jerseys had a piece of the paint. No longer allowing Kentucky to drive that thing inside and make shots in front of the rim. So Kentucky has missed now back-to-back jump shots, and now a world of pressure He's on Rupp Arena and 24,000 people.
That was their last time out, LSU. There's a look at the game reset. Kentucky with 9 fouls, LSU 7. And so what are we thinking defensively if you're the Wildcats here? At some point, you can't let LSU run the clock all the way down. When you look at the free throw shooters, your point guard, if you're LSU, Anthony Hickey, only a 58% free throw shooter on the season, but more importantly, it's really about what you do in the last 2 minutes of the ball game from the line.
Yeah, and Anthony Hickey is in Rupp Arena.
Stringer, meanwhile, is an 84% free throw shooter, and he's going to go to the free throw line. The 5'10 senior from Jackson, Mississippi, with an opportunity to make this a 3-point game. Still a 1-possession game if you're Kentucky.
Kentucky's last field goal came at 3:29. 0 for 3 since then.
Andre Stringer. He'll have one more. Kentucky with 2 timeouts remaining. Down by 2, Stringer comes out, and Siobhan Coleman comes in for defensive purposes.
Well, who's been good driving the ball to the paint has been James Young in this ball game. But certainly the best offensive rebounding team in the country has to get this thing up and give their size a chance to send it into overtime.
Here's Andrew Harrison, missed the last shot, took it up and drew the foul on Siobhan Coleman. And Coleman shaking his head. It almost appeared as if Harrison did that old sweep move, like he drew the contact with his arms.
Boy, I tell you what, Siobhan Coleman, he's going straight up. He did not break that principle of verticality from what I saw. Regardless, one free throw away from this thing being tied in LSU with no timeouts.
They're going to have to take it all the way up the count. They're going to have to take it all the way up. With 10.9 to go. Harrison knocks down both. Hickey, he won a state championship here. More chance for glory. Anthony Hickey, they clear it out. He's got to go. It'll count. And we go to overtime.
The confidence that John Calipari has to switch everything 1 through 5. Because ultimately that's what happens in this play. Randle gets switched out on, so that's a 4 guarding a 1. And the challenge without a foul, and we play 5 more. There's no panic by Kentucky when they get caught in a mismatch because of their ability. They're almost an equal-sized team because of how big their guards and their wings are.
Well, look at the way that Anthony Hickey raises up and contorted his body to get that shot up over Randle, but 5 more minutes to go for LSU and Kentucky when we come back. Overtime from Lexington. Welcome back, everyone, to Lexington and Rupp Arena for the start of overtime. I'm Mark Jones courtside along with Jimmy Dykes. We're going to play 5 more minutes after that riveting, compelling finish moments ago. Anthony Hickey missing at the buzzer. Would have won the game for LSU, but it was a tough, contested shot. And Harrison knocking down 2 clutch free throws to knock the game at 65. The Wildcats will have the first possession of overtime. A quiet day so far for Julius Randle. And Martin with the rebound.
Here you see the lack of confidence for Kentucky to make threes. Wide open 3. Take up the slack in the defense and take a long 2 instead. LSU basketball.
Jordan Mickey sets the screen for Stringer. O'Brien just pulls it. That's bully ball. And 1. Man, he flexed on the Wildcats and got to the bucket.
I know he's missed a lot of shots in this game, but he's put a ton of pressure on Kentucky's defense from the 15-foot mark and down. Keep Johnny O'Brien from posting him up on the low block if you're Johnny Jones and let him go to work. Do not allow Kentucky to double down on him and take him out of the game.
O'Brien, a 64% free throw shooter, misses. But LSU with a 2-point lead. Young on the drive. Got all the way to the front of the rim. On the top of the zone.
I thought that's who Kentucky would go to try to close out that regulation. And they got bailed out with what I still think is a bad foul call. They got Harrison to the free throw stripe.
O'Brien out on the wing here. Hickey off the baseline screen, now on top with 14 on the shot clock. The two-man game on that side of the floor with O'Brien. Tough shot. No problem by Johnny O.
Where'd he catch the ball, Martin?
Out on the wing. Out on the block. Yep. Had a little bit more room to operate with. Under 3.5 to go. He's got 20.
Look how low that zone's packed in. 5'9" guards that have their feet just outside the paint.
They let Young in a nice rhythm here on the last couple of shots. Putting his head down, and he's got 18. Aaron Harrison has 21, leading the way for Kentucky.
Julius Randle wants to guard Johnny O'Brien. He's trying to tell Calipari that right now.
Boy, Hickey has got some courage. Anthony Hickey with the long ball makes it a 3-point lead for the Tigers.
As much as Kentucky has switched and it's been good to them, it has also bitten them in the backside a couple of times with the 5 guy taking on a small shooter.
Harrison, Stein finishing inside. Kentucky has had some success driving all the way from the top of that LSU zone. Almost too easy.
Yes, all game long against a zone, against a team that's not making threes. That ball cannot get in the paint with that much ease.
Stringer kicks it out to Hickey.
Now, Randle wanted a piece of Johnny O'Brien. They're going to work right now on that low block.
Jordan Mickey with the entry pass to O'Brien, tied up, and a jump ball possession arrow will stay in favor of LSU.
You can count on it like the sun coming up tomorrow morning. When Johnny O'Brien catches it on the low block, Kentucky's going to bring a big wing or a big guard to double him up and put him in trouble. Don't put Johnny O'Brien in that spot. Keep him a face-up 15-foot player right now if you're LSU.
Tell you what, at some point, you got to wonder about Hickey got wide open and got the layup underneath. I was starting to say, Johnny O'Brien, he's hunched over, grabbing his shorts. At some point here in overtime, man, he might need a breather, but I'm not sure you're going to get him out of the game, Jimmy.
No, he can be tired right now. He can't play tired right now.
He is really sucking wind right now. Harrison with a wild drive. Randle fouled on the offensive rebound. But how did Anthony Hickey get open a moment ago on that inbound?
Well, let's take a look at it. Hickey just gets a simple back screen, and there's no communication, there's no switch. Boom, and there we go. That should be an easy play to defend by Kentucky. But you have to talk, you have to be alert. You cannot get, that's a very simple kind of a square initial setup with a back screen and gets a wide open layup.
Randle knocks down the free throw. Yeah, we heard John Calipari shoot around this morning imploring his team, his players, to talk, communicate. Something of a lost art amongst this young generation, he feels. As Randle letting his free throw shooting do the talking on that sequence. Don't forget, coming up next, College Game Day presented by State Farm from Cameron Indoor Stadium in Durham, North Carolina, setting up a huge one tonight between Duke and Syracuse. 1-point lead for LSU.
And Randle still checking Johnny O'Brien. He got Cal's attention and said, let me on him. Let me handle him to close out this game.
Got it high this time, spins back into traffic. Hickey, O'Brien. And he lost the handle.
Look at the fight from Julius Randle. Very impressive what this young man has done the last 2 minutes. Johnny O'Brien is hurting Kentucky. Julius Randle says, Coach, let me have him. So he's holding him up on the low block, one-on-one. That's 2 big bodies just down there in a wrestling match, and Randle doesn't lose ground.
Kentucky with a chance to take the lead. Well, Julius Randle's eyes getting big here, looking for the pass. Young takes it himself and blocked, going to the bucket. Loose ball, Kentucky away with it. Randle inside, rims out, and the Tigers have possession. A frenetic, frantic scramble underneath, and LSU emerging from the pack with a 1-point lead and possession.
To Kentucky, you defend your tails off right now and only allow one hard challenge shot.
Johnny Jones calls timeout. And LSU on the brink of something huge right now, but trying to close the deal with 39.9 to go.
Well, who wants to be the guy when it's time for the guy to step up? Julius Randle defensively has been that dude for Kentucky, and they might need him to close this thing out again with a strong defensive stand coming out of this timeout.
All right, so some news in on Jimmy's jet and who's waiting now on that standby list.
Well, Joe Lunardi is also saying that if LSU wins this ball game, they're going to slide right back here at the back of my jet and be in that group of the last 4 in. Tennessee, I think, has really hurt themselves with a loss today at Texas A&M, but that's how much ground Johnny Jones has potentially made up in the last 2 hours. To start this game, they were number 45 on the list of 36 at-large berths. They're going to leapfrog 9 teams and possibly be in at this point if they can hold on with 39.9 to go.
Well, at some point you got to think that Johnny O'Brien's going to get a touch here on offense. Cauley Stein guarding him. Right now he's on the left side of the floor. At the elbow.
Yeah, and interesting that Randle is not on Johnny O'Brien because he's shut him down the last 2 times.
Oh, they cleared it out for him, and he got blocked. They got a piece of it from the weak side. Here's Young. In transition, blocked. And Young will go to the free throw line in quick transition. They opened it up for him.
Yep, nothing wrong with what LSU did with their offense. Johnny Jones knows. Keep Johnny O'Brien off the low block. Let him be a face-up player. And what has Kentucky done well in this game? Get the ball off the defensive board and run it up your backside. And they have a chance now to take the lead because of that action.
And a big development here, Jimmy. Anthony Hickey now with his 5th foul on that last play. So he's done. He has been a key component for them, especially here late in the ball game. 20 points and 8 assists.
He gets a nice round of applause from the Kentucky fans for the former Mr. Basketball in this state.
Young at the free throw line. I mentioned just a 66% foul shooter on the season. Ties the game at 74.
Jonesy Johnny Jones, no relation, has no timeouts left right now. So he has to communicate to Stringer. What does he want on this last possession?
Young gives Kentucky a 1-point lead.
I want Johnny O'Brien with a touch about the 15-foot mark. That's what they have done best.
There's a high ball screen from Johnny O'Brien. Stringer handling into the paint. Got all the way to the bucket and got it to fall. Stringer with 11.5 to go. Kentucky running it right back. Andrew Harrison. Young on the drive. Contact. Randle with 3.9 to go.
No timeouts left.
They got to go with it. Stringer loses control. Ball game.
What an effort by LSU. What an effort by Kentucky. The entire last possession was not a walk. It's a 1-2 and then a shot up by Young. And the best offensive rebounding team in the nation got the biggest offensive rebound in this ball game. It was Randle. And his motor, his willingness to say, I want to be the guy when the guy needs to step up. Julius Randle got it done. He clamped down on Johnny O'Brien for 2 straight possessions, and then he gets the big offensive rebound in the putback. We broke down his numbers. Julius Randle, about 60% is what he makes in offensive putbacks.
Only 8 points all game, Jimmy.
Yeah.
But 2 of the biggest ones right here. for Julius Randle. 15 rebounds to go along with those 8 points.
The reason why you cannot double team Julius Randle as a cutter, as an offensive rebound guy. That's where he runs into trouble. And Kentucky was so good at getting that ball to the spot and allow, what do they do best? Offensive rebound their way to a win.
7 of his 15 rebounds were offensive rebounds. Kentucky improving to 11-3 in conference. A young team continuing to grow up. What a finish. Right now we're going to send you to Cameron Indoor Stadium in North Carolina for College Game Day. For Jimmy Dykes, I'm Mark Jones. So long from Lexington.